Hey guys, my name is Leslie Scardo, and I'm going to be reading Jeff the Killer, Not Expected. And by the way, this story is not mine. I did not make this story. I'm just going to read it for entertainment. And I hope you guys like it. And sorry, it's my AC. It's really hot out here today, so sorry guys. Anyways, before I continue, I am not the best reader. I am super sorry. And if it's low, again, super sorry. It's my first video, so. Anyways, I hope you guys like it. Let's start now. Chapter 1, Meeting Jeff. The pilot from Ohio was found stabbed to death 30 miles away from Gagwit Airport, 20 meters away from the area in which the helicopter was crash landed. However, he had only suffered a few injuries from the crash and had not died from it. His mouth had been cut into with a knife, sorry guys, and had been carved into a smile, and his eyelids had been burned off, causing him to die horrifically with his eyes wide open. The helicopter was not scheduled to be flown that afternoon, and officials are confused as how he managed to sneak away with it and fly as far as the UK. The murderer is believed to be the notorious murderer, Jeff the Killer. The theories that the police had analyzed thoroughly are that he threatened the pilot to bring him to the UK and killed him immediately after they both arrived. However, some people are suggesting a cult of Jeff the Killer worshippers or a copy killer. Holy shit. Jesse was sat in a pure white vest and baby blue checkered pajama, sorry guys, shorts in front of the television. A bowl of what was a ramen and used chopsticks with some slowly overeating ramen juice next to her. Laid on her dark leather couch, she said she had a notepad in her lap and a pen in her hand, but couldn't bring herself to write anything down. This British girl had heard the BBC News reporter mention a murder, and suddenly grabbed her notepad to take notes on it, hoping to attain a huge amount of information on whatever had happened. Jessie had an unusual lifestyle, as she called it, although most people would just call it a habit. She loved to research murderers and analyze the killers behind them. She had no idea why or when it began, but it was just something that she did. She didn't question herself on the matter or question why she had such an interesting hobby. At any point, it was as natural to her as coming home from school and doing her homework. It was just something she enjoyed to do, completely normal. Although after hearing the name Jeff the Killer, she suddenly didn't want to write anything about this particular case. Not sure if it was out of fear or the fact that she didn't see the point in it. Jeff the Killer was the one murderer that she had attempted to research many times before, but never found out anything that the general public didn't already know. He was also the murderer that she was most scared of, and probably the only one that she was hesitant to research. In the first place, usually no matter how gruesome or stubborning the murder, or how twisted and mentally traumatizing the criminal in question was, Jesse had always had the stomach and mind to look into it regardless. That was probably because all of the violent video game that she played and the type of books and comments that she read. The thought of being murdered scared Jesse enough, but Jeff's story showed that he was just an ordinary kid pushed too far by bullies and stress, which frightened Jesse beyond relief. He was just like her at some point, just a normal teenager who was forced not only to deal with school, hormones, and friendship trouble. Sorry, guys. Not that Jeff was recorded to have any friends or anyone outside of his family that he was even remotely close to before he became Jeff the Killer. But he also had to deal with irritating bullies that came with being in school. This was part of school that troubled the kids the most. But the one thing that adults did the least about, due the pressure, laziness, or negligence. Jesse had never been bullied growing up and hoped that she would never be, although people didn't really bully each other in sixth form anyway. They were too mature for that. After all, that Jeff had become one of the most fearful and well-known serial killers in the world in course of a few months. And on top of that, after a few years of senseless killing and mutilation, he hadn't even been caught. There had been sightings of him, but the police had never actually had him under custody. This has all caused the masses to deeply question the law enforcement's competence. Because, after all, Jeff was one endangered teenage boy against a whole law system. Wow. His story could have happened to any young teenager who has been bullied and had enough of it. That was what Jesse found the most distressing about him. It was true that normal killers began as normal people who had traumatic experiences and were deeply affected by them, but not at such a young age. Did any that Jesse had already read about become such well-known and brutal murders that had yet to be put behind the bars of justice? She wished that she could call it impressive, but it felt wrong to use that word. Jeff the Killer in England? Jesse just sat there listening to the news reporter quietly, giving him her full attention as if he were a teacher running one of her classes. If anyone had any encounters with Jeff or thinks that they have seen him anywhere, please call call the number on the screen now. Sorry guys again. Jesse scoffed. placing her notepad and pen to her side, next to her bowl, and used chopsticks. As if anyone's gonna actually call these guys. Jeff Jeff will kill them before that happens. If anyone sees him and knows that they know it's him, they're dead. Why do they think they haven't caught him yet? People will be too scared to call in like that. She leaned back. She leaned back her head back on her couch, staring at her plain ceiling, not particularly thinking about anything by this point inside. I've got school tomorrow. I can't research tonight. Don't have time. Too bad. Her large, dark eyes were averted towards the clock. In her living room, it read 10:23 p.m. Better head to bed. After washing her dishes and looking up the whole house, just like she did every night, Jessie turned to her bedroom, lights off, made her way to her bed and collapsed on it, sliding under the covers slightly like a worm. Her room was covered in murder mysterious novels, documentary DVDs on murderers, and research notes that she had acquired over the years on killers. Just stacks and stacks of books, DVDs, and papers. It was nearly impossible to walk around without stepping on something, but Jessie was so used to walking around with her in the dark for various reasons, such as going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, remember late at night that she forgot to turn the oven off, that she knew where everything misplaced item and could manage wandering around in her living room without hurting herself perfectly. It may not have been the unusual clutter of a teenager's room, but it kept her happy. Besides, it wasn't as if her parents were around to tell her to clean her room up or get rid of her horrific DVDs and books. Her mother worked away from home a huge amount and often spent months away from the house. And her father lived reading and only ever visited her in Oxford once a month and for only a weekend. She was constantly home alone, and her parents weren't there to worry about her weird obsessions with killers. They didn't even know about it, even though she had it for as long as she could remember. If they'd know, they would definitely make her stop her. Sorry, guys. Definitely make her stop her. Stop her. Sorry, guys. I lost it real quick. Give me a second. Stop her hobby. That was one positive thing about living alone in a huge amounts. She could pretty much do whatever she wanted. Sorry, guys. I lost my chapter. Sorry. I lost my letter. The only people who knew about her strange love for looking into killers were her close friends, but they didn't really question it and just let her do whatever made her happy. They weren't very judgmental in that sense, although she could tell something sometimes if they would have preferred it if she didn't do it. by their expressions or when she mentioned it, but she tried not to let that bother her. So tired. It normally took Jessie a long time to fall asleep, so she would just lay there and and compliment things. Normally, schoolwork that she needed to do the next morning or what her and her friends would be doing after school the next day for a while before drifting off into what was normally a dreamless sleep. Tonight was taking slightly longer than she thought it would, causing her to just lay there thinking a couple of hours. She couldn't see anything in her room except for the darkness. Still, sorry guys, I can't pronounce this, I'm gonna skip it. Were being formed by the shadows that she couldn't see, move, and morph into their shapes. She had trained her eyes not to create images from the darkness, so as to not let her nightmares about any monsters that she saw the shape of in her domain. Because even though most of her dreams were forgotten, the ones that stuck with her were the ones that frightened her. When you constantly spend your free time reading about death and murder, it's not surprising that your nightmares would be especially frightening. At that moment in time, the only things that she could com- contemplate were theories about Jeff the killer and he and why was he in her homeland. It was such shocking news to her and most of her country that there was no way she would be able to forget about it, even if that meant not having a good night's sleep. I wonder if he's still in London or he's moved on already. Maybe he killed more people since last night, she thought to herself. The murder researching team turned and lay to her side, facing the dark bedroom that would have been a light baby blue if she had the lights on. I can't imagine why he would want to come all the way to England, though. He has others to kill in America, or maybe he wanted to switch it up a bit. Before I continue, uh, I think you should guys give your opinion on that. Like, which of the killer kill more, like in India or America? No idea. Okay, continuing. Despite the fact an internationally known serial killer had traveled to her country and had already killed within the first few minutes of being there, Jessie didn't feel frightened. She was more interested in the fact that he managed to get into a country without any problems or anyone noticing, and the fact that she had no idea why he would want to travel all this way. Her not being able to analyze his actions slightly annoyed her. If it was really him who had killed that young pilot, and not some copycat killer like the news anchor said, she knew that it must have been a threatened the pilot. He must have threatened the pilot. That much was obvious. But she was impressed by his methods and the fact that he actually took the time out of his killing spree in America to sneak into Britain and continue his work there. As long as he isn't in Oxford, I should be fine. Sorry guys, give me a minute. Okay, continuing. This thought kept her calm and relaxed, ready to drift off in any minute. She couldn't imagine how terrified she would be if she found out that Jeff the Killer were in her city. She would immediately ask her father if she could go and visit him and stay there until it was reported he was gone. And she hated staying with her dad, mainly because he didn't pay attention to her when she was there, because he was always too busy with work, but also because there was nothing to do there that didn't involve her going out and spending money. I wonder what would happen if he actually came here. Who would he kill? Freak! Jessie jolted. She thought that she had heard the sound of her bedroom door open. However, she eventually just decided to ignore it. The one in her house usually caused incidents such as that to happen, even with the windows closed. So she wasn't used to it, even if it did make her jump from time to time. Sorry, guys. She just hated the fact it startled her. She had a hatred for jump scares, since they were the only things in horror movies, senoras, that actually scared her anymore. Now that she wasn't afraid of gore or violence anymore, just she just discarded it and tried even harder to drift into her non-existing happy dream world so she could hurry up and wake up in the next morning. Creak, creak. She jumped once again and shuddered. This time she thought that she was hearing footsteps on her wooden floor. She froze, not entirely sure if it was from fear or unrealistic motions that someone snuck into her house. She had locked the whole house down, so that was impossible. Although, even though she knew that it was unlikely and hated herself for even thinking that it was possible, that it was a possibility, her mind instantly thought of Jeff being in her room. The now nervous teen knew that the only thing that she was only thinking of this option because the news had read earlier that it wasn't an idea should have been sparked in her mind. She wouldn't help but think of it. That can't be. He's in London. No way. No way. She gradually turned her head away from the wall and tried to catch a glimpse of what was causing the creaking noises, so she could put an end to these silly notions of hers. When she made this mistake, she saw through her blurry, tired eyes a tall, slim, silvery, sorry guys, cannot pronounce that, nailed into the darkness, along with the other shadows that lived in the abyss of her room. Pitch black appearance. The instant that she laid her large eyes on the mysterious figure, and she realized that it wasn't just a shadow made by her room, misleading, fake, terror-creating creating abilities. A large hand reached out and covered her mouth, making her out a little squeak, as if a mouse had been discovered eating a stolen block of cheese from the clipboard. The mysterious person rotated to her whole body so that she was facing her ceiling and climbed on top of her, her legs either side of her body, still keeping her quiet and sitting over the thin bed covers while she was still under them. No way! This is no fucking way! She panic began to spread through Jessie's body. But she stayed still, mainly from terror, but also because she was researched enough murders to know that when the victims struggle, the killers usually cause them more pain out of the sick kind of enjoyment or entertainment, or even began to taunt them with sadistic words. Although she had no idea why this person would, who seemed to be a man by his tight grip, a large hand, and slim but strong body, was in her house, or even how he got in. She couldn't even see his face through the darkness. He could have been there to rob the house or even rape her, but she didn't know. The fact that she had no idea why he was there was frightening, hurt even more than thinking that it could have been Jeff the killer. At least if she knew it was Jeff, she would know what was about to happen to her, so she could mentally prepare for it. Her knowledge on Jeff killing method was so detailed that she would probably be able to predict anything that he attempted to do to her with a second before he did it. If he wanted to taunt her by telling her what he was going to do to her, the shock factor would be non-existent. The mystery man reached into what seemed a hoodie pocket and pulled out, from what Jessie could tell from its shining in shape, a kitchen knife. Oh no. The caramel-colored girl couldn't move. The sight of the weapon. She knew that he had come to kill her, but still wasn't aware of how he would do it, or if he still planned on raping her and then killing her. But now she at least knew what this whole situation was going to end with: her death. She had never seen a real-life murderer before, and considering how this man managed to sneak into her house without hearing him after she locked the whole house, the whole so she locked down the whole building, clearly showed her he was some kind of expert at this. He had done this many times and must have been a professional. She didn't know who. She needed to know who he was. If she was going to die at the murderer's hands, she needed to know who he was. Maybe she had researched him before, although she couldn't think of a killer that she had researched that killed in this way and was alive or not in prison. The mystery man began to chuckle, his voice low and croaky, as if he were a smoker. You know what? I want to hear you scream. He released his cover. He released his covering of her mouth, but she did not scream like he wanted her to. She didn't want to. Instead, she wanted to find out who this guy was. If it was really Jeff the Killer, he would have a carving on his mouth that cut into himself. The night he had killed his parents and brother, Jessie knew that much at least. She didn't know how she gathered the courage to do this. Maybe it wasn't courage, more like stupidity and incompetence. But she reached her smooth hand and ran it up his and ran her soft fingers on the man's face. As she felt around his mouth, she felt him jolt. He didn't move other than that. She feel digs in his cheeks, almost like gashes that she had received in the past. When she cut her knee when falling off her bike and landing on the pavement. But there was no blood coming out of them like back then. Sure enough, he had a scar around his mouth. It was Jeff. Jeff, she whispered in a trembling voice. Jeff the Killer was about to murder her, the one murderer who had gotten the least information on out of all the ones that she had searched up during her lifetime, was about to kill her. She felt that it was ironic. The girl who spent her time Googling, reading up on, and watching documents about killers was about to have her life ended by one. She only wished she had courage to scoff at herself for spending her life like that when she was her face. But she knew that it would most likely irritate Jeff and cause him to kill her right there and then. Either way, death was inevitable. Jessie knew that. She just lay there waiting for the knife to go into her gut or the side of her mouth. Since that was Jeff's trademark when he killed he burnt the eyelids off his victims and cut a smile into them, just like he had done to himself that famous night when he first committed homicide. Jessie had always thought that was so that his victims could suffer as much as he was when he was bullied and treated so badly. But now it seemed that she would never find out. Famous night. Oh, sorry, guys. I was about to read the sentence again out. She wasn't going to cry or beg him not to finish her, because she knew that it wouldn't make a difference. Murderers didn't want to take requests. She laid there, waiting to die, accepting it, but nothing happened. But what? The man asked in a genuinely confused tone. The both of them just sat there, and Jesse's bed puzzled. Wait, what? Okay, guys, that is chapter 1, Jeff the Killer love story, not expected. I will read the next one today or tomorrow. See you guys in my next chapter. Peace.